Yeah, so grab your dice, grab your beer, grab whatever else you want to grab. You can even grab a fate deck. Yeah, because we're back with the Beer Hammer podcast, a wonderful podcast for the casual miniature war gamer and you. And today's episode is going to be talking a lot about Malifaux, among other things. As always, I am your host, good old Eric. And joining me tonight, we have Joe, who's a returning host, who's been here before.
Hey there. You loved me so much, I'm back for seconds.
Nobody said they loved you. And along with Joe, we have my buddy Jeremy, who I've talked about, but has never been on it before.
Hello, internets.
Yay, Jeremy.
He just knocked his mic over.
Yes, yeah. I'm already breaking things. This will probably be a trend.
Yeah, we can expect much, much more of that. So anyway, to start things off with, I'm basically going to say Games Workshop is releasing a few new things that go on pre-order on Saturday. One is the arena for Kill Team. I believe there was also, I'm looking it up right now, but I believe there was also the Mechanicus Kill Team. They announced that. Yeah, Kill Team Arena arrives next week. It looks to be a cool thing. It's another kind of like self-contained board with some other stuff, and you got some doors and things like that. And it's kind of interesting because they're like, this is all rules for close quarters combat in Kill Team, but they released that with Rogue Trader. So I'm not entirely sure how that's supposed to work, but it's supposed to work that way. Or what the difference is going to be exactly, other than the fact you get a fancy game board with a few terrain pieces and some doors and all that. It's supposed to be pretty cool. They're going to focus a lot, I believe, with using the command roster, which the regular Kill Team uses, just most people ignore it because it is you actually set up a Kill Team of up to 20 models, and you can pull from that command roster to make your 100-point Kill Team. And that's what you're supposed to do, like during a campaign.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one-off games and such, there's not as much point to doing it because you're just going to put together a 100-point Kill Team, and then that's it. And you're not going to continue experience. You're not going to want to put in a different specialist. But the idea is that you have all those models in your Kill Team to draw from. So, like, when we sit down and play Kill Team, we just have our command rosters. And I would show, my opponent the command roster and say, this is what I'm playing. And they say, okay, cool, this is what I'm playing. And then I hand it to them. And basically, as we make build our Kill Team as we're starting the game, then they can build their Kill Team to try and counter my build right there in front of each other.
Or you can just play Astra Militarum and bring 20 models every time.
That's just you.
I mean, Mechanicus sounds pretty cool, though. I mean, that's been something that's been kind of highly anticipated for Kill Team, hasn't it?
No, I mean, they've already got Mechanicus. They're just releasing a specific boxed Kill Team for it.
That's what I mean.
Which technically the original Kill Team box came with a bunch of Skitarii and a Tech Priest and all that, or not Tech Priest, but a bunch of Skitarii and all that kind of stuff to make a Kill Team of. They're also releasing, this is going to be cool. I'm probably going to have to get this one. It is the Killzone Sector Frontier. And it is basically supposed to be like the, kind of a wilderness planet type thing, a couple little bunkers and walls of ruins. It's supposed to be, categorical of the, weird shelled out planets that are out there in the wild.
That sounds very Halo-esque.
Yeah.
That description. That's pretty cool.
Yep. And then they are releasing a boxed Gene Stealer Cults Kill Team and a boxed Adeptus Mechanicus Kill Team that is not, and those were the two Kill Teams that were included in the original box set, but they're releasing them as separate, and they're different than the original box set Kill Teams. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good, because I don't want to repeat it.
Has there been a release date, since we're talking about things that are releasing, for the Wow, my brain just completely lost that.
We're used to it.
Do you think about the Malifaux 3rd edition? Is there a date on that?
For the Kroot?
The Kroot, it was the rules for the Kroot were released in January's White Dwarf. I'm simply waiting on it to show up in the mailbox.
Because there's a box set for them coming out as well, right?
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay, that must have just been a rumor because I saw it on Reddit.
Most likely. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I saw it on Reddit on the Warhammer subreddit.
Yeah, most likely that was a rumor and not a real thing, because I haven't heard anything about them releasing a box set for the Kroot. And in all honesty, the little bit of the previews and stuff that people have posted about the Kroot kill team is the more excitement for it is as in something to add to your Tau kill team. The Kroot on their own are not very strong. So I don't know how they'll be in kill team, but in 40K, the Kroot are kind of
Got it.
They're like just barely better than guardsmen.
Okay.
That's basically how they are as a model and whatnot. And they're just something that you can put in a Tau army. The only reason to do so really is because they have a little bit higher weapon skill.
Yeah.
And they're slightly more geared towards close combat. But if I remember correctly, they're strength 3, toughness 3. They might be strength 4, toughness 3. I know they're toughness 3 because they're squishy, just like guardsmen.
Gotcha.
And just like, a lot of the Tau and stuff like that. They're okay.
So
but
it'd be
they're
a decent replacement for the grunts, basically.
Yeah, it's like a screening unit is basically what it is.
Meat shield.
But they can actually fight in close combat because I believe their weapon skill is a 3, whereas like the Tau weapon skill is like 5. So Tau suck at close combat. Another thing they have released is they have released a beta rule for bolters. It is called.
I was seeing something about that.
Yep. It is called Bolter Discipline, and what this means is that all Adeptus Astartes and Heretic Astartes models gain this ability. Instead of following the normal rules for rapid-fire weapons, rapid-fire bolt weapons used by models with this ability make double the number of attacks if any of the following apply. So basically, if you're within half range, like a normal rapid-fire, you get, if it's rapid-fire 1, you'll get 2 shots. If you did not move, you'll get 2 shots. So that, auto bolt rifle on your Primaris Marine that has a 30-inch range, instead of getting 2 shots at 15 inches, if you don't move, you get 2 shots at 30.
Wow.
So you can take a 10-man squad of Primaris Marines and lob 20 shots downrange at 30 inches, which is not bad.
No.
Yeah.
But you can't move. You have to give up your movement for that, which I don't...
Or use your move to get within 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
but you're moving 6, so...
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is if the firing model is a Terminator, Biker, Centurion, or Vehicle. So that means all your vehicles will always rapid-fire max. Your Terminators, their Stormbolters, will always rapid-fire max, just because they have those keywords. So that gets nasty. For the purpose of the ability, a rapid-fire bolt weapon is any weapon with a rapid-fire type whose profile includes the word bolt. For example, bolt gun, bolt rifle, storm bolter, combi bolter, hurricane bolter, inferno bolt gun, etc. This also applies when firing the bolt gun profile of combi weapons, including the bolt weapon profile of relics such as Bloodsong and the Lion's Wrath, and when firing relics that replace a rapid-fire bolt weapon, so long as a relic is also a rapid-fire weapon. Example, Primarch's Wrath, Fury of Deimos, etc. The Gauntlets of Ultramar and the Talon of Horus are also rapid-fire bolt weapons, as is the Guardian Spear used by Deathwatch Watchmasters.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And they don't clarify, but I'd imagine if the Guardian Spear for Deathwatch is, then the Guardian Spear for the Custodes probably is too. But I don't know if they have... Well, no, they wouldn't have the Adeptus Astartes keyword, so I don't think they get that. But anyway, just random musings and wandering through the rules. So those are some of the newer 40K stuff. Theta 7 Aquistus, that's the Adeptus Mechanicus kill team. It has that new Tech Priest that they gave, the fat guy. Tech Priest Dunkin' Donuts. And it has that. And I believe it has... a couple of the Rust Stalkers with it, and some specific tactics to them and things like that. But anyway, they haven't previewed the Gene Stealer kill team yet. Aside from that, we have been announced that they are going to come out with Warhammer 40K Funko Pops.
Woohoo!
So you can buy Funko Pops of your favorite Space Marines, or your girlfriend, wife, significant other, boyfriend, whomever so it is, can go and mistakenly buy you a Funko Pop instead of that unit of Space Marines you wanted.
I think this is another great.
They just need to come up with admin rules where you can play them.
No. I don't think that's going to work. It's not how it works. I think
Warhammer Darth Helmet Edition. Oh, God.
This is a really solid move on the part of Games Workshop as far as immersion and expansion of the brand and getting getting 40K into the public consciousness beyond, the hardcore gamers and the hobbyists and the geek culture, and I think, Eric and I have talked a lot about this, about the culture is ripe right now for 40K to just break wide open into, the mainstream. And I think this is a really good step in that direction. The Funko Pop thing, the brand is massive. I mean, they went from this tiny little, sculpting in their mom's kitchen to a $300 million business. I mean, they're just a juggernaut. So look forward to that.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty cool. Along with that, we also have there's some new stuff for Adeptus Titanicus, the game nobody plays. Nick is supposed to actually play that with me one day whenever we get a chance to. And I actually have to build my Titans for that. So, Nick, let me know, a week ahead whenever you want to do that. And I'll actually build my Titans, the rest of them. But that's kind of the new stuff coming up on the horizon. And, of course, as Jeremy mentioned earlier, Malifaux 3rd Edition is going to be coming out, which is a game that Derek actually sucked me into with his feminine wiles.
It's freaking awesome.
It is at that.
Yes, he basically saw the models, which, to give you a brief idea, the history of Malifaux and me, I actually have known about the game for quite a while. I initially found out about it through my buddy Ken back in this probably would have been 2006, 2007-ish. I think they were just released 1st edition and all that. And I became familiar with it through him. Never got to play. I bought a crew, never finished putting it together, painted it or anything before I kind of ended up having a slump in gaming because I, was working on my career and didn't have anyone else around me to play. So it was kind of one of those games that just kind of fell by the wayside. I didn't even think about it. And then getting back into gaming, I'd seen the models and seen that they'd released new editions of it and been like, oh, that's really cool. I'd like to check it out. But I don't know anybody who plays. So if you build it, they'll come. So basically, I just kind of started building it. And then I talked Jeremy and Joe and Cody into playing Malifaux instead of Kill Team on our Thursday night gaming night. And then we had a lot of fun. And then Jeremy came over Sunday for another one-on-one game. And by one-on-one game, I actually mean we made out and cuddled.
It was glorious.
Oh, no. We did play Malifaux. Sorry. I forget sometimes.
We could do both.
I mean, yeah. You can have your cake and eat it too.
At the same time.
All right. Yippity-ki-yay. So, we will be discussing that at length here shortly. A few of the other things of note to mention that I can't really think of a whole lot more. For those of you who listen to the podcast that are interested in the Hobby League, we have actually started that up at Vendetta Games in Dahlonega. Sign up is ongoing throughout the league, so you can basically go anytime from now until whenever and go sign up. Our first hobby day, however, is going to be, I believe, February 24th. And then our first battle day is going to be March 10th. So we're going to start at 500 points. We're going to go up by 250 points every month. Every 2 weeks will be a hobby day, and every 2 weeks will be a battle day. So basically, we'll have 2 Sundays a month. One will be hobby, one will be battle. And that's how we're going to basically run the event. We do plan on doing prize support and trophies and all kinds of neat shit for you guys. So I don't have to listen to any bitching about, I painted all these models and all I got was this lousy-ass t-shirt. shut up, paint your models.
I want the lousy ass t-shirt.
I like shirts.
There was no lousy ass t-shirt.
Well, I'm not even gonna get the lousy ass t-shirt.
Nope.
I love shirt.
Wow.
I love lamp.
Wait, there's lamps?
We don't believe in lamps.
Oh,
The light is a
this
lie.
is illuminating.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I did. Well, Cody's not here, so.
Groan.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Audible groan.
Yeah.
Jeremy, how do you tell dad jokes so well when you're not a dad?
When they become a parent.
Nice. You're not seeing this, but I'm fist bumping him right now.
I'm debating on how flammable he is.
Quite. He has cotton on.
Yes, he does. All right, so moving on. Hobby stuff. Jeremy is actually a new hobbyist and can give us some new, neat perspective on hobby stuff, as he just brought over his Malifaux crew that he got from me. And there's some Neverborn models, and he done painted them up.
Yeah, I did.
Jeremy. He's so great.
So having got into the hobby, which you got into basically last year when we were doing the Hobby League, and I got you into 40K, and I basically handed you a bunch of Imperial Guard models and said, yo, go have fun.
Yep.
Jeremy has done this all by learning on his own onesies. Give some listeners some pointers. Tell us what you did.
I mean, the number one is just, internet. I mean, there's all kinds of techniques you can find on YouTube.
And then just for porn?
Well, I mean, you can find both. I mean, there's videos where, that's happening at the same time. I mean,
is there really?
I assume. I mean, the internet is a dark, scary place.
Wait. What the fuck is the internet?
To the listeners, I'm looking at them very baffled right now.
That was probably the longest pause of silence we've had in this podcast ever.
Which is great because, ironically, if you know the reference, that's exactly what happens. Go for it, Jeremy.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, but just sticking with it. I mean, and always the rule of cool. Find models that you're going to have fun doing, and don't be afraid to strip them and start over and practice different techniques. I did it a little bit. I wish I'd have kept them, but cheap army men, paint them up just to kind of practice different techniques. And I mean, before I would do anything on a model, I would sit there and practice it just on a piece of paper to see how the colors would look on top of each other, because I didn't know what I was doing. So, I would take those steps to make those mistakes before I actually put it on plastic.
Awesome.
That's smart. Do you use primer on these?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, you have to primer everything.
Yeah.
Duh.
Well, I'm a hobbyist, complete, nubile. So I've not.
Joe hasn't even painted his first model yet. That's why we point at him and laugh and tell him he has a small penis.
Okay. Hey, it's a genetic condition. Shut up.
I know, right?
No, but yeah, I mean, I am interested. Malifaux has kind of tickled that interest probably more than anything. Well, and the Kill Team newer stuff has so.
Kill Team newer stuff?
Well, yeah, the newer models in Kill Team. So
cool. Such as?
Pretty much everything that you've shown me recently, so.
What have I shown you?
Well, I like the Dark Eldar models, especially.
There you go.
Those are, no, seriously, out of all the, if I was going to pick one specific art, well, those and the Death Watch are absolutely just, really cool. I mean, the amount of detail they have on them and little nooks and crannies and little thorns and all kinds of shit that you can throw paint at and detail and get, really intricate.
You mean Death Guard?
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. So
Death Watch are the dudes that are black.
Hey.
Death Guard are the Plague Marines.
Hey, this is a colorless zone here, okay? All colors are welcome.
Except for clear.
That just didn't make any sense.
Clear's not a color.
Says you.
No, says science.
But no, I was clarifying that for the listeners to know. When you started going nooks and crannies and bits and horns and things, I'm like, they'll be sitting here going, wait, Death Watch don't have any horns.
Yeah, the Death Guard.
He meant Death Guard, the Nurgle guys.
Yeah, the Nurgle. They look like the pus coming out of them, and busting out of the seams with the sickness. I mean, just it's those models are absolutely off the chain. But as far as finesse goes, the Dark Eldar, they look like something out of like a fantasy novel or a comic book, just super detailed. And I think when I first saw those, I was like, okay, I haven't seen a model that's this small with this much detail before. And then I started seeing the Malifaux stuff, and I was like, whoa, okay, they're on that same track. Because it's one thing to do something that's big and awesome. I think that's a little bit easier. But when you have these modelers, the guys at Games Workshop that are actually designing these, in ZBrush or what have you, and really getting intricate on the smaller models and still able to print those at that detail, that's super impressive to me. And I think that's a really good direction for the entire wargaming hobby.
Yes, more detail is always better. We love detailed models. Yes, we do. And just wait till you try to put together some Malifaux models.
Now, I have put together a Warhammer model before, so
yeah, they're not that bad.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Wait till you have to put together Malifaux.
I mean, I did super glue my fingers together a couple times.
Malifaux has the most fiddliest of bits.
Fiddly bits.
I was building the Arcane Emissary the other day, which is an awesome model.
Yeah.
And you literally have to glue half of this guy's hair on. Like, yeah, like bits of hair on this giant Minotaur. And I'm like, and of course they don't give you instructions.
Of course not.
Yeah, you can download some online, but otherwise you just kind of have to figure it out. And so, yeah, there's a lot of dry fitting happening, which is dirty.
Dry fitting?
Yeah, dry fitting. It's when you actually take a piece of a model with another piece of a model, make sure it matches up without putting glue on it first.
Gotcha.
That's called dry fitting.
Yeah.
That sounds really dirty.
Yeah,
way dirty.
Sounds like the dry humping of the game industry.
Yeah, kind of it is. And it's also what I do to Joe's mom sometimes.
Is that like what furries do? Sorry.
No, I don't know that they're dry. They rather enjoy their squirrel costumes.
Yeah.
I like furries, by the way. Disclaimer, I've had friends that were furries, so nothing against them. If that's your thing.
When you have to point it out, that usually means you are.
Do you remember when we worked at EB Games?
Yeah. I remember the dude that was a furry that was super nice and really cool.
He was a great customer, man.
Yeah, he was. He was an awesome dude.
And he knew his shit.
And I was really trying to get to the point where I would get to know him well enough so that I could ask him without offending him. Like, I really want to understand how this came about, because I'm like, I don't get it. I'm totally cool with it. If you want to wear a squirrel costume to get your freak on, you go right on ahead. It ain't hurting nobody. You find somebody who wants to wear a squirrel costume too, and y'all do your thing.
You go, boyfriend.
Who was the first person that sold that to a bunch of other people?
Well, I just want to know what dude was sitting around, or girl was sitting around, whoever it was like,
I assume it had to start with college mascots. You mean, that's kind of where you get experimentation. I wonder, and the costumes are there.
I wonder if I dress up as a giant chipmunk, if that'll work. I really want to know, how this, the history, that. I mean, but anyway, I digress. That has nothing to do with miniature wargaming.
Maybe that should be something with miniature wargaming.
Is there a furry miniature wargame?
Not that I know of.
Hey.
There's some really cool anime stuff, like Super Dungeon Explorer, that has little chibi dudes.
Oh, nice.
This is starting to sound kind of like a Neverborn faction, though.
I mean, furries, yeah. But make them real fucked up, their body parts coming up, out of it, and rabid. Maybe they've become one with the furry costume.
There you go.
It's more like a symbiote instead of just a costume anymore.
Give me an idea. Another good one would be where it looks like the guy's trying to get out of it.
Oh yeah,
but it's like pulling him back in and devouring him.
And I think that kind of is the the idea with Malifaux. It's just a little bit off kilter. That's what makes the model so cool, is that they're it's not just standard. They use a lot of creativity with it.
It's just the lore behind the game. I mean, you have this hodgepodge of different tropes and ideas that shouldn't work, but very much does.
That naturally brings us into we'll go right into our Malifaux discussion, from kind of talking a little bit about the hobby and stuff. pretty much, if you really want to get into it, the premise behind Malifaux, the lore behind, the overall view of the lore behind it, for those of you who may not know anything about it and want to join us, is essentially, this is the way I understand it, and I'm paraphrasing quite a bit. There's a lot of details. If you go to Wyrd Games, WYRD-games.net, and click on the Malifaux link and look it up, they do have a lot of the history on their website. And you are more than welcome to go check that on your own. I will post the link in the show notes. But basically, the idea is that magic was declining from our world. The era of the world would be the, late 1800s, early 1900s-ish. And basically, the people who could use magic that were left did this big ritual. And in doing this ritual, opened up a breach into another world or dimension or whatever it is. And they found a deserted city. The deserted city had writings on shop signs and things like that. They learned that and deciphered basically that the city's name was Malifaux. And in the country outside the city, they found these things called soul stones, which basically had magical power to them. They started using them and creating a trade with it, and they had like scientists and explorers and all kinds of people over there and miners, mining the soul stones, all kinds of stuff. And the hole that got you to Malifaux was called the Breach. Well, at some point, they stopped being able to send anybody over the breach, and they had no clue what was going on, but they could hear a war raging in the city that was a ways away from the breach or whatever. And the breach kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Eventually, a human corpse or whatever was tossed through the breach right before it closed, and the corpse had hours carved into the chest. And apparently, whatever was going on, they had the accepted theory, I believe, is that the humans had pissed off the Neverborn enough to where they basically came in mass and took back Malifaux. And then I believe it's a few decades later, I think, the breach actually mysteriously reopens for no known real reason. And there's several minor breaches here and there. And that's when the guild moves back in, creates the mines. They start sending more convicts over than the best of the best like they were doing prior, and setting up the Soulstone trade again, getting all that. The Arcanists basically unionize the workers to fight the guild control, and the Neverborn are still there, and all these other factions start kind of showing up and doing their thing. I don't know each specific faction story and how it fits in yet, because I am still learning the game, and I'm still reading things and learning stuff. And that's just kind of the basic overview of what I know. And that kind of leads us to the present day of, the different crews and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if they're going to advance the story when 3rd edition comes out. I imagine they will.
From everything I've seen, they're going to, because they're already showing how some of the masters, where apparently you used to be able to have like dual allegiances and things of that nature. Some of them have become, one or the other. And I think I read something about, it's a master I know nothing about, was like, I think a dual, and is now something completely different.
Yeah. Somebody said something on the forums about, I believe it was Marcus, might have been the forums or it was the thing, Marcus, which is an Arcanist master now, and he is straight Arcanist. Like that's it. Mm-hmm. That he is actually going to be Neverborn when 3rd edition comes out.
Might be the one that I was thinking about.
Because he basically is, he's wild, he's very beastly. All his faction specific crew stuff is all to deal with the creatures more so than anything else. Whereas most of the other Arcanists, it's all elemental stuff and golems and non-living entities, arcane things. But we have played a couple games of the 3rd edition open beta. Since there is no NDA on it, I believe we are free to talk about it and talk about our experiences. The first game we played was actually a 4-way game. Now, because we literally sat down and said, okay, we want to learn the mechanics of the Fate deck. And for those who are joining us, Malifaux doesn't use dice. It uses
Hooray!
Which Jeremy hates dice. It uses.
Let's be clear about that. Dice hate me.
Dice hate Jeremy.
I have no problem with dice.
Yeah, dice hate Jeremy.
Yeah, as a rule, dice. They don't do.
Does that mean you're a dicist?
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Yeah.
Dirty dices.
Yeah.
Practicing diceism. Anyway, so basically what we did is we sat down on board with some stuff and we grabbed our different unit cards for the boxed crews. So it wasn't like a full high soulstone point game or anything like that. And we literally set everything up and just kind of said, okay, we're going to push our dudes around the table, move them, and we're going to learn how to use this fate deck mechanic. And at this point, we just kind of played. We went around in an initiative order and whatnot. And we didn't use schemes. We didn't use strategies. We didn't really use the interact stuff. We were just fighting and learning how to attack and do things and figuring out the fate deck. Now, Sunday, Jeremy and I played a one-on-one game, and I can assure you that the next time we do Malifaux, we're going to run multiple one-on-one games instead of having a big free-for-all with all of us, because it's really set up better for one-on-one games.
Nice.
However, when it comes to the fate deck mechanic, that's pretty cool. Who wants to explain that to our wonderful listeners?
I can take a stab at it. It uses a deck of cards, basic playing cards with black and white jokers, or black and red jokers, rather.
Yep, black and red.
Black and red jokers in it as well. You've got different suits than your typical deck of cards. You've got rams, tomes, crows, and the last was...
Masks.
Masks, thank you. Whenever you do a test versus an opponent, you both flip a card, and whoever has the highest is winning the test, and then the person with the lowest number can cheat fate, which allows them to take a card from their hand that you get at the beginning of each turn and swap it out. And then a lot of your models have abilities that trigger or get bonuses thereof if you are having the appropriate suit to go along with your winning number.
That pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, there is a thing. There is the mechanic where you have a bonus to your duel total. So basically, if you have one bonus, what'll happen is you would, or a bonus to your flip, I should say. Where if you have one bonus, like if something says, if you are, height whatever above your opponent, you get a plus, and it's like a little black rectangle with a plus in it. And that lets you know that you flip the card for the regular duel, and then you flip another card, and you can pick whichever one you want. So should you be doing something to say where maybe you need to, you want a specific suit more so than you want a number just to create a trigger that happens, you can do that and pick, and it may be a lower number card. However, usually you're going to pick the higher because it's more important to get the action off than the trigger, but you never know. And if you have a minus, which is, a little white rectangle with a minus sign in it, what that means is you will, for every minus you have, you'll draw an additional card. So if you have one minus, you will take one card and then draw another card, and you have to pick the lowest. Now, the thing that sucks about the minuses too is that you cannot cheat fate when you have a minus.
Yeah. Another great mechanic with the fate deck that I like is with the conjunction of the soul stones. And we'll probably go into more detail on soul stones later. But when you have remaining soul stones during play after army build, you can spend a soul stone at the beginning of each turn to draw extra cards to be able to set your six card hand up. You still have to discard down to your 6-card hand, but it gives you the option, oh, wow, I got this hand. I've only got 2 decent cards in it. The rest are pretty much garbage. Let me go ahead and spend a soul stone or 2 to get a few extra cards and pad my hand up better.
Interesting thing I learned from listening to, I've been listening to the Schemes and Stones Malifaux podcast, and they're doing coverage of the open beta as well. They basically, in them talking about the rules changes, one of the things that has changed is that you can declare multiple soul stones, because one soul stone lets you draw 2 cards. So you can say, I'm going to use 3 soul stones to draw 6 total cards and draw all 6, and then discard 6 out of that pile of 12 that you want to basically custom tailor your hand. Now, you have to declare all of the soul stones that you're going to be spending at once. You can't spend one soul stone, draw 2, and then go, well, I'm going to do another one and draw 2 more.
Gotcha. Just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And I will say that, I mean, I've been, if you heard me on the last podcast, I was on episode 13. I've been doing the RPG thing for, the better part of my life. And, I may be new to the wargaming thing, but there's a lot of commonalities between, tabletop RPGs and miniature wargaming. They kind of lend themselves to one another. This mechanic with the card, with the decks, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to see how it works. I kept an open mind. I mean, dice, they hold a significance, being a gamer. I love this mechanic. I mean, it takes so much. Look, we've all had days where we've played, even multiple days where the dice were against us. They weren't working for us. Every roll sucks. You're rolling, snake eyes. I mean, you're missing every single crucial roll.
Joe's talking about his last experience playing Guillotine.
But I mean, even Eric, man, I've seen it. Yeah, we've both, he and I, have playing each other in Kill Team before, have like gone through several sets of dice just to try and find one that actually is working for us. So I think this kind of takes that element out, because at the end of the day, you've got the 52 cards. The odds are kind of in your favor better that you're going to have at least a good card here and there, especially if you shuffle. So I will say, the mechanic wise,
and with having a hand that lets you cheat fate, you can mitigate that some.
Yes, exactly. And the Soulstone even bolsters that even further.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Should you use it at the beginning? Because that's the start of the phase only.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
So, I was just going to say, I really, I went in with an open mind, but a little apprehensive with this mechanic. And I have to say, it is fun as hell to play.
Yeah, it really is. I'm watching some, battle videos where they're taking a faction out of the faction and throwing them against each other. And I don't know if this was a 2nd edition thing, since I pretty much just dove into 3rd edition, or if it was a faction based thing, but somebody was doing something where they were literally cheating fate with the card face down. And then the other person was having to do it face up and then flipping to see where they were at. They were using it to lure out stronger cards. Because at one point, he flipped a 6 and then he goes, I'm going to cheat fate. And so the other guy, other guy had already had like a 9 or a 10 out and was, well above him. He said, I'm going to cheat fate. He puts a card face down. And the other guy goes up even higher and he flips over another 6. And all he was doing was yanking power. I don't know if that was a faction specific ability. I wasn't sure.
I think that's 2nd edition.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read the verb. I mean, from what I remember reading of the cheating fate mechanic on 3rd edition, I don't remember that being a thing, but I may just have not read it clearly enough.
Could have just been some faction specific thing. And I don't
know
which one he was playing, because I think I watched like a dozen of those videos in a row.
Cheating fate is a universal thing in the game.
Yeah.
So there is, the only thing that's faction specific is like with the Neverborn, your Poltergeist and your Sorrows and stuff that are like, oh, well, if you cheat fate, you take a damage or whatever. Yeah. And I believe that's stuff that's new to 3rd edition as well. Because a lot of the unit cards are very, very different.
Yeah, well, I mean, so far what I've seen from the Neverborn, a lot of their best tricks are things that happen on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, and they, for those who are crying about them, I mean, Jeremy was using Pandora's crew with 3 Sorrows and a Poltergeist and Baby Cade and Candy and Lilith, or not Lilith, Pandora. And I can tell you that I mean, the nasty little tricksy stuff and aura abilities and all that it was kind of like, oh crap, what in the hell how am I going to fight all this stuff?
Yeah, the area of effect abilities and like the damage over time, it's really sick.
Yeah, the best thing, I mean, they are a get in your face army, at least this version of it that I'm playing with, and their ability to move through terrain and ignore it. I mean, their biggest weakness is they've got to get in the face, so you've got to use the map. You've got to don't just run down the shooting alleys. You got to maneuver around things and then get in front of your enemy so that you can actually start putting that damage output out.
And they're hard to hit too. I mean, which stands to reason. They're kind of freaking like, ghosts basically. Yeah. So that makes sense. But man, I mean, I had one of my, cause I was playing the what was it?
10 Thunders.
10 Thunders. Yeah. And I could not for the life of me, even with one of my heavies, hit his guys, man.
Joe was also flipping garbage cards.
He was, yeah.
Yeah. But I did cheat Fate quite a bit. And even with cheating Fate, like I
was just cheating.
Well, let there be a disclaimer here. Jeremy is a dirty, rotten bastard.
Yeah, he actually was sticking his thumb up Joe's ass randomly in the game just to like
doing
see
it right
what
now.
happened. I mean, yeah, who isn't?
Is that what that was?
Yeah, I have really small thumbs.
Oh, we're actually having a thumb war right now.
I thought it was my hemorrhoids flaring up. Okay.
Nope. That's thumb war.
Son of a bitch.
But I mean that's the thing is it does still have that son of a bitch, because like when Jeremy and I played Sunday, I drew 6 cards. They were okay cards, but then I kept drawing low on the flips, and Jeremy kept flipping high. So even though I could cheat Fate and I could improve my result, it still wasn't going to beat his.
Yeah, this one thing I thought was interesting is it always seemed like at the beginning you weren't getting the best cards in your hand, but you were flipping high, and I had the exact opposite. I was flipping low, but my hand was really good. And then, about on the second turn, it went the exact opposite way. I was flipping better with a garbage hand, and you had a good hand and were flipping garbage.
Right, but it was still not as good as the flips you were making. So it was really interesting to see how it was actually almost like that was balancing out in a way, but at the same time, it kind of wasn't. But the cool thing was, even with that, I was still able, with the bonus action mechanic and things like that, I was still able to get some things done. And that was the coolest thing, is instead of like some of the miniature war games where it's like, oh, I rolled a 1 and I can't do anything. It was like, okay, well, my flip failed, but, I still have another action to go, so I can try again. Or I have a bonus action that I can make some other little trick happen. Even if it doesn't damage anything, if it doesn't do anything, I can still affect the game somehow, even though I flipped like garbage.
And one of the cool things I thought, individually within your crew, you may have abilities that, may offset abilities of, your opposing armies. So, I was playing the 10 Thunders. And so the little ninja guys that I had, they got, they didn't really have much in terms of resistance, but then some of my heavies were resistant against fire. Well, Eric's crew, he was using Conflagrate, which is basically like an area of effect, fire attack.
It puts down pyre markers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the actual in-game thing. I was using, Karis, Anasalia Karis's crew.
Magical Molotovs.
Yep. All the fire gaming and her. And let me tell you something. I may end up sticking more with that crew because Fly is really good.
Oh, yeah, it is. The mobility and traversal is awesome. She looks like Lara Croft and Archangel from the X-Men had a baby. So she's got big metal wings. She looks cool as hell.
What I like we're kind of hitting on it right now. One thing that makes this such a great skirmish game is they really have, and I hope they continue to embrace it, because from what I can see coming with 3rd edition, maybe they're going into the higher model counts, but they allow each model to do so much that it makes it kind of a less is more game, and you don't need to have a lot of models to have a lot of action and have a lot of things going on and having a lot of options to do things.
Oh yeah, what was that? That special little rule I had with my my ninjas. I could throw the shuriken if I got onslaught. Basically, if I got a mass card, I could do an onslaught, which means I could do a shuriken. But no matter whether it failed or hit, I could throw it a second time. Yeah. So you get an automatic second hit.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking really comparing this to Kill Team, which I love Kill Team. I love 40K. I think they're great. That being said, when you look at a lot of the models in it, they move and they shoot, and a lot of their abilities are really just variants or differences of those things. There are some special abilities and all that. But then I look at like these Malifaux armies and units, And, they've got, almost every model has several things that it can do in these bonus actions. And it's, it's not just moving and shooting per se.
Yeah. Well, like I was using Sandeep's crew against Jeremy the other day on Sunday, and I'm looking through the abilities and I'm like, oh shit, this has a synergy with the Oxfordian mages where basically within an aura, they can he can allow for, I believe it was him or one of the other in the crew, I can't remember exactly, but it was allowing for a concentration action to become a bonus action. And a concentration action lets you become focused. When you get focused, you get a focus +1 token or marker or whatever. And when that happens, what that really lets you do, and I didn't really understand what it let me do at the time, is it lets me add a bonus to my flip to hit and to damage.
Oh shit.
That's strong.
And it's very strong. And then you can build those up. They don't go away. Like you don't just use it, it's gone. Once they're focus +1, until something in the game mechanic specifically removes that condition, that model stays focused.
That's awesome.
So you can still just add to your flip. I mean, I think you can only go up to, essentially a +3 on the flip, but, you can still get this, big focus bonus and just be like, cool, I'm focused. What do you got?
And I mean, that kind of, when we're talking about all the different nuances and idiosyncrasies and extra rule sets, one of the things I mentioned to Eric and that we kind of talked about the first game was the rule sets. And for those of you wargamers out there that, delve into other similar hobbies like, video games and RPGs and stuff like that, the rule sets, as far as like the extra abilities and such, they kind of are in that mentality of almost like a role-playing game. Like, you get a plus hit to this under this condition and it gives you all these kind of bonuses and, these enhancements. And I think that's one of the things that lends itself to the depth of this game. It doesn't seem at face value as a very deep game. It really is. I mean, but it's so easy to play, though.
Well, Joe, just wait till next time we play, because one of the things that we started to explore a little bit with in my game with Jeremy that we didn't get too far into because we were kind of running out of time and we're learning things and we had to look things up and it just kind of got crazy to start messing with is the strategies and the schemes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you can have a scheme, and this is very narrative. This makes the game incredibly narrative. A lot of your miniature war games, they have essentially 2 points. You need to hold an objective or take an objective, or you need to kill something. Yeah. And that's how you win the game.
Yep.
In Malifaux, they actually have a specific action that lets you interact. And interacting causes you to drop scheme markers. Huh. And if you interact in certain ways and put scheme markers on the board in certain places, at the end of the turn, you can reveal the scheme to someone and it scores you victory points towards winning the game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was seeing some build lists where there are literally like scheme runner builds where there are literal builds where they plan on you probably wiping them out. They might be down to 1 or no models at the end of the game and they still beat you.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Because
and handily beat you. They're still going to win from 8 to 2. And they maybe killed one of your models and you wiped them off the board.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And because you were doing things. One of the schemes that looked really cool to me it's called Search the Ruins. You have to make it over to pieces of 2 pieces of terrain on the opponent's side of the table. And you have to interact with those pieces of terrain with an interact action, and you will drop a scheme marker. If you do that in 2 in 1 turn, then you reveal the scheme to the enemy player and you gain a victory point.
Oh, that is awesome.
So it's literally like your troops, instead of just fighting, are running over there and going, what's in this building? Let me dig up on this hill for a little while, even though my guys are fighting. Let me see what's going on here. There's one that say deliver a message. And it was a little weird at first, but I kind of got it. You pick a model, either like a henchman or a master on the enemy's team.
Yeah.
And you need to get within, I believe it's like a 3-inch or 2-inch engagement range of that model. Mm-hmm. and then you can interact, drop a scheme marker, and it's literally like, okay, you run one of your peons up there and it hands the guy a secret note. And that's the mechanic of it. And you get victory points for that towards winning the thing.
And the scroll says, you just got fucked, bro.
Well, then you also have the fun of there are models out there that will remove your scheme markers. So you're sitting there trying to do your thing, and they're just like, nope. Gobble that up off the board right there for you.
But see, that kind of lends itself, like, think back if anybody's played like an old Final Fantasy game, like you're powering through the map and you're just running past the enemy and, you know, all the baddies, and you're just not even paying attention to them because you're trying to get to your objective. You just get there and do your thing. It doesn't matter if half your party got wiped. Your main character is still there. You got the objective. You progress the game. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A win's a win, right? So that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get into games, and a lot of times I have hobby ADD where I get big into a game and I get big into it for like 5 minutes. I mean, honestly, Gates of Antares was one of them. I love the mechanic of that game, and the mechanics and the rule set was really cool. The problem I found was just nobody plays it and nobody's willing to play it. And because of that, I never kept playing it. And I've got I have a boatload of Gates of Antares miniatures down in the basement.
You should have brought those to the swap meet.
I did.
Oh shit! I'm sorry, bro.
I have brought my Gar army to that swap meet. Literally every single one I have gone to, and I have gone to 4 total now, and nobody has ever been interested.
Okay, so APB for Beer Hammer listeners.
If you want a Gar army, you can PM me over Facebook, and I will sell it to you damn dirt cheap.
And he paints really awesome.
It's not painted.
Never mind.
But you can imagine how good it would be painted had he done so.
If you want to pay me extra, I will paint it up super quick and fast.
If it had been painted, it would have been painted like the fucking Michelangelo, like the Sistine Chapel.
No, I'm not doing that. That's not happening.
I'm like your PR guy, man.
I don't like it when my PR guy bullshits people. It's just, you're fired.
PR guys do.
Fuck you, you're fired.
Oh, God damn it. First day of the job.
I know, right? Right? I think you lasted 5 minutes, you bitch. Reminds me of my employees. Anyway.
Hashtag truth.
Anyway, but yeah, so I really love the narrative potential. I've been looking into and picking up little pieces here and there whenever I make orders for the Plascraft colored terrain, which is the little buildings that are pre-printed on their little cards. So I can just put together pre-printed terrain for it.
Nice.
So that I've already got a couple swamp cottages and some other stuff. They have one that I'm going to get. It's like a big top circus layout.
Nice.
That's going to be fun.
What's a swamp cottage? That sounds awesome.
It would be a cottage in the swamp, Joe. That would be yeah.
See, that circus one makes me think of something I'd love to see in the Neverborn would be like models that look a lot like the clowns from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Just
you know
big,
what?
Scary clowns.
Get the fuck out. Fuck you. I don't like clowns. I'm sorry, Beer Hammer listeners. I do not like clowns. I don't like juggalos. I don't like anything associated with clowns.
All our listeners are clowns and juggalos.
Motherfucker. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just kidding. No, none of our listeners are juggalos. Because if you are listening and you are a juggalo, then fuck you, stop listening. Yeah. I'm embarrassed that you like me.
Get fucked. Jump off a bridge, preferably a tall one. Sorry.
Would that be? Are we juggalists or juggalisms?
Yes, we
are.
are.
How do you combine racism and juggalo to make it known that you just arbitrarily hate juggalos?
Doesn't everyone arbitrarily hate juggalos?
I mean, as a default,
not juggalos.
Unless you're a juggalo. I mean, like that's.
I don't know.
Or maybe even more so. Then
I think juggalos hate themselves. That's why they're high all the time.
You know what the really fucked up thing about this is? This is the second time I've had a conversation today about hating juggalos. The other one was at work today. I was explaining to somebody what a juggalo was and why you should hate them. And she looked at the picture and she was like, "Oh yeah, I hate them too. I didn't even know what they were." And I was like, "Yes."
It's been a long time since we've had any walk in the shop. And I even though this has nothing to do with wargaming, before we take our kind of, midpoint break, I will tell you a really, really funny story.
A story.
So
gather round, children.
yeah, it's time for Tales from the Tattoo Parlor.
I would watch that show.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be a great show.
This rather large gentleman comes in to get a tattoo, and I don't care about that. Whatever, you know what? You're big and beautiful, baby. You rock it. And so he comes in and he wants a hatchet man on his man boob.
Oh God!
And I go, okay, cool. First off, I'm sitting here like, okay, cool. We'll do it about this size, and I'll charge you the minimum. And I tell him, what the minimum is, and he goes, okay, cool. And then he's like, well, I actually have this much. Can we do it a little bigger? And I convince him not to do it bigger. Not because I at this point, I had smelled enough of him to know that I did not want to take the extra time to make this tattoo bigger.
That's 3 days without a shower and Axe body spray.
No. No, I can handle that.
Oh, God. Worse?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Lord.
So this guy then proceeds to sit down in the chair, and I start tattooing on his, man titty, this hatchet man for his juggalo family. And literally halfway through the tattoo, I'm about to throw up.
Oh, God.
So I kind of choke it down and I go, hey, dude, I got a question. And he's like, what's that? And I was like, I really want to know something. Is it something to do with listening to ICP and being a juggalo that somewhere in y'all's credo, you don't take fucking showers?
Oh,
because you smell like shit.
Oh, shit.
And he just stops and he looks at me. He's like, what? And I said, seriously, you smell like an ashtray mixed with cabbage that sat in a McDonald's dumpster in August, mixed with bad sweaty feet, mixed with old farts from a taxi cab fucking chair.
The man can paint a picture.
You stink, bitch. And he just kind of looks at me and he's like, well, dude, I got off work and I didn't have time to go home and get a shower. I'm like, we're open for another 5 hours. You could have gone home and got a shower and you could have saved my nostrils. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. If he did bathe regularly and this was just from one day at work, he needs to change his diet or there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Or where the fuck?
That's doctor time if just one day at work's making him smell that bad.
Where does he work?
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe he works at the sewage treatment plant or something. Who knows?
I don't know. I didn't ask because he stank. And so I finished the tattoo. I got done, got paid. That was it. So I can tell you that juggalos traditionally do not have a fun time at our shop, mainly because we actually charge real money and not monopoly money. Because the next funny juggalo story was we had a whole gang of them walk in, and the guy goes, how much y'all charge to tattoo my family? And they all wanted hatchet men tattoos or something ICP related. And because the tattoos were more than $30, I don't know a single shop that has a minimum that low, to be honest with you, anywhere around here.
I unfortunately do.
None of them actually got tattooed. We just had to put up with them smelling like cigarette butts.
God. Fucking juggalos.
Yeah. Anyway, so a lot of fun for juggalos. Juggalos luckily do not fit into the miniature wargaming aspect. And, there is the whole, world of the nerd store and the nerd smell. I can guarantee you that stink of nerds is like potpourri compared to juggalos.
The stink of nerds is a combination of Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Yeah, it's really not bad.
It's not. I mean, it has a distinct smell, and I mean, you'll smell it at Dragon Con or any other local convention, or but
packed game store.
Yeah, I mean,
you're talking about. I mean, anytime you go to a press of humanity, you're going to get some smell, regardless of group.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know, but it's just it's a joke that's not actually a real thing.
Yeah.
I've never I very rarely ever walked into a game store and been like, ugh.
No, the only thing like that, I remember going to one of the big Magic tournaments just to do it one time, and there's hundreds of them all pressed into a small building.
And it probably was bad ventilation.
Yeah, it wasn't a pleasant odor, but it wasn't awful. It wasn't like making me want to run for the cloves and the orange. But
and disclaimer, I can probably speak for all of us. We aren't against any other major group, but juggalos, they are an entity within themselves. They are worthy of our wrath and hatred.
Yeah, fuck juggalos. Anyway, with that being said, with the wonderful syllables of fuck juggalos coming out of my lips.
Fuck juggalos.
In case you didn't hear it, fuck juggalos. Anyway, we are going to take a nice little break. And when we come back, we'll probably discuss a little more Malifaux. And then I'll also go over a game that I played with Rebecca.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hey, wait. I didn't think Beer Hammer was going to start segueing into bedroom games.
No.
Okay.
No, we actually played the Song of Ice and Fire battle game.
Nice.
So I'm going to go over a little bit of a battle report with that one. So anyway, with that being said, we're going to take a break. You guys sit, think, meditate, realize you hate juggalos too. All right, ladies and gents, we are back for more Beer Hammer. Cheer.
Juggalo free.
I want to hear you cheer. From wherever I am. That sounds like whispering people going, ah. That's nothing like cheering. Don't even start that crap.
Sorry.
Anyway, back with the Malifaux discussion.
Hey, Eric, a quick segue. What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I was drinking, however, I finished it, a big old fat bottle of the Believe from the Bee Nectar Meadery.
It says American Gods. That is awesome.
It is. It's an American Gods mead. Nice. It is very smooth, very good. Unfortunately, it is a much lower alcohol by volume content than I enjoy. It is 6.5%, which does nothing to me.
Nice. And Jeremy, I see, is Sans Beer for the Beer Hammer podcast. Yep. So responsible.
Because I polished off that whole 300 milliliter bottle of mead, I'm drinking Monster now.
And I am drinking New Belgium's new Brut IPA. Brut IPAs is a new thing.
No one cares it's IPA.
Yes.
They're the juggalos of beer.
They are definitely not. That would be Natty Light. But,
Keystone.
Steel Reserve.
For those,
I think that is the juggalo preferred beer.
Oh, God. So for those who don't know, Brut IPAs are a new thing. They are a low carb alternative for those of us who are on keto and paleo and all that kind of shit. So it's good stuff.
Joe is full of ketosis and wisdom.
Well, I've lost over 80 pounds on it, so I can't say that it's a bad thing.
I just want you to know that everything Joe says is fueled by ketosis.
Yes. Lack of sugar and carbs.
Anyway, going back to Malifaux, there are some other cool things. Like, first off, we didn't get too much into this, and I had it quite a bit wrong when Jeremy and I played. When you hire your crew.
Oh, we were talking about this.
You actually, it's very similar to what we were talking about with like the Kill Team roster, where you actually are supposed to hire your crew in front of each other at the beginning of the game. You set a soulstone limit for the game, say 50 soulstones, and then your master, or if you use a henchman as a leader, you can use either one, but if you pick a master or the henchman, they are a zero cost model. Only if you put other masters or other henchmen in your crew do they start costing points or soulstones. A lot of the masters have a totem model that is also zero cost. And that is something that I have not experienced or read the rules of entirely yet. You can bring them in via summoning instead of deploying them on the board as normal. The basic point of it is that, you can build your crew from your available models, and so can your opponent, to try and kind of work a counter for each other. The cool thing with that is that, as you do it, your crews end up a little bigger than I think what we've been playing with. So we'll have to actually try and do it correctly should I have enough models available. And in doing so, as you hire things, you do have a max limit. Like, most of the unit entries on the cards and whatnot will have like the name. And I believe it's mostly minions that you can have multiples of. and they will have like a number in parentheses, and that is how many of that model you can have. So like with the crews I use, I like the Arcanist. So, you know, they have a lot of gaming, like fire gaming, wind gaming, poison gaming, ice gaming. Usually you can have, I believe, 5 max of any particular type, and they cost 5 points apiece.
What's the maximum point value?
There's no set max necessarily, but the average, like the suggested soulstone total for your crew in a game is about 50.
Okay.
On an average game. And then if you have a little bit left over, then that is how many soulstones you can start the game with, that your henchmen and masters, who are the only models who can use soulstones, can use soulstones to give you bonuses to your flips. They can use them to, you can use them to draw more cards at the beginning of each turn. You can use soulstones,
to get extra AP.
Right. And the other thing we haven't done yet is we have not used upgrade cards.
Yeah, I was looking at that today.
Yep, which I plan on having all the 3rd edition upgrade cards printed out for us and whatnot, so we can actually use them.
Nice.
And actually add the upgrades to our various models.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see an army list that was using soul stones, where it's less about having lots of models and spending like that, where you're putting on tons of upgrades and you're coming into the game with 15 or more soul stones loose in order to just be able to spend them like crazy.
The big thing is, I think you can either it's kind of the accepted max, or it is an actual stated ruled max where you can only start with a maximum of 10 soul stones.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. And on the this is a slight segue, but definitely within the Malifaux kind of realm. Guys, these models are absolutely beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
they're gorgeous.
Just the level of detail that they have on them, the variety. I mean, it's just, Eric, what's the gen-based one that you've been playing? The one with this really wicked one?
That is Banasuva.
So Eric's painted this awesome Banasuva.
He's not done yet.
He looks like he's not done yet. Okay. He looks like a djinn, like a genie. 4 arms, flaming, kind of, appendages. He has this badass, like flaming mane coming out of the back of his head. Very elegant and dangerous looking. I mean, just absolutely. Just the amount of, attention to detail and in every aspect of this model, the physique, the little accoutrements all over his body. He's got these kick-ass looking like bands all over him, and the flames look just very, they flow very well. I don't know. Do you know who the team behind the models themselves are?
I do not know who the model design team is. As far as I know, Wyrd Games, which is actually headquartered, I found out, in Kennesaw.
Really?
Oh.
Yep. They are a Georgia company.
Whoa.
We might have to make a road trip.
I know, for sure.
Well, apparently quite a few of them play at Gigabytes. Several of the people that work there and work for the company, which is really cool. Their Malifaux night, I think, is like Tuesdays or Thursdays up there. And that's when you'd have to go to kind of run into those folks.
Might have to do a Beer Hammer mobile one night.
Oh, yeah, because I get that off work so often.
Excuses.
Yeah. Sorry, I got to pay the mortgage. But no, they are up there, and I am trying to line up having someone from the company and stuff like that as a guest spot on the podcast to talk about Malifaux with us as a more experienced person, instead of us who are fumbling about in the dark trying to figure things out.
That'd be cool.
And yeah, the models are very, very detailed. They're very cool. I will definitely say that they, being used to the Games Workshop models and being the standard that I judge other models from, they are not quite the level of Games Workshop when it comes to detail and ease of hobbying. However, they are gorgeous models. They are amazing. They are some of the best plastics, aside from GW, that I have worked with. The cool thing is, a lot of the stuff fits together. You don't have to work with a lot of fiddly seams or anything. The only thing that I can say that sucks about them is that their scaling is very true to life, I believe. And so some of the parts can get very fiddly and very much like, what? The lack of instructions for the models also kind of gets which I can understand. They're trying to keep their production costs and, cost of model bits down. So you do kind of have to have an intuitive level. They are for either a more experienced hobbyist or for someone who wants to get good really quick.
And as he's talking about that, I'm looking at the little undead baby from the Neverborn, Baby Cade.
He's not undead.
Oh, really?
He was never born, so he can't be undead. He was never a living thing. He is a nightmare made manifest.
Well, it's a little baby that is sitting on the floor with a knife in his hand, and he has a teddy bear pinned with each different area of his possible body to the floor. So the ears, the legs, the arms, all nailed to the floor while he's eviscerating this little teddy bear.
And for any of our
I just
listeners,
love the fact that it's considered an enforcer.
Well, yeah, he is an enforcer. He is one step below a henchman, one step above a peon. The thing about that model is that you can see all that detail on him, and he is literally, because he is a baby in scale relation to everything else, that model is literally about the size of your thumbnail.
Yeah. He's tiny.
Yeah.
and still somehow intimidating.
Yeah. It was surprising. I thought it was going to be harder to paint than it really was.
No, it's really weird. Certain levels of detail and even certain sizes end up making things way easier when intuitively you would think they would make it harder.
Yeah.
Like the Death Guard Joe mentioned earlier from Games Workshop, they have so much detail on them, but it actually almost makes them easier to paint.
Yeah, I was talking about how, I've also been one of the things I was starting to do to practice painting was getting into some of my board games that have miniatures. And as a rule, very rarely do you get a board game that has anywhere near the level of detail that, Games Workshop or other, miniature skirmish game model is going to have.
Except for Mice and Mystics.
Yeah, that definitely have some good detail on that. And it definitely makes it difficult to get a good final product when there just isn't a lot of detail in the model. You have to create the details yourself.
Right.
And that can be very challenging.
Well, you definitely nailed it, because Baby Cade has this nice little blood puddle underneath the dagger that he's holding as he's eviscerating this poor little teddy bear.
And Jeremy, if you don't mind, for our listeners who want to join us on our Facebook group, the Beer Hammer Associates, go ahead, search it, find it, join our group. Like tomorrow, if you can get a good light source picture, whatnot of your Neverborn crew.
Absolutely.
Pop them up on there.
Will do.
Because, that's the purpose of that group, is to show people your projects, what you're working on and what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really happy how that, the blood pool turned out. I just used some Elmer's glue to put down and let that harden up so that I have that little raised surface, and then painted that the red, and then took a little more of the glue and glazed it over the top to give it a little bit of a shine.
That's a nice little trick. I like that.
Yeah. I can tell you that Jeremy has quickly, in the less than a year that I have gotten him into miniature wargaming, he has quickly become a purveyor of the fine art of what I call hobo hammer.
Oh, yeah.
Which is learning how to do all these hobby tricks and everything as cheaply, effectively, and with as much materials as you can find laying around the house already as possible.
It also gives you the opportunity to practice more without dropping money on it.
Right. When you're dropping, such and such. And because you can go out and you can get a thing of Elmer's glue, or probably already have one, or your kids do, steal it. You can
screw your school project. Right? I need some wargaming.
You can handle a D. Get over it.
Right.
It doesn't go on your permanent record. That's bullshit.
But you can buy these, fancy effect paints and whatnot that are, for blood and for blood effects and everything. Or, you know what? Like Jeremy said, just throw some Elmer's glue on there, wait for it to dry, and paint that bitch red. Works just as well. And it looks great on that knife. I'll totally agree with you on that. And not to mention, Jeremy has also taken and ran with painting and does a phenomenally clean job on his models for as inexperienced as you are.
Good job, Jeremy.
Thank you.
They do look really good. I mean, I was actually admiring.
For our listeners at home, I'm over here beaming.
He is. He literally has a beam of light coming out of his forehead like a unicorn.
Oh, I thought that was his asshole.
It can be both.
Same difference. So the Pandora, I actually put my my torch on my phone on, and I was looking at some of the detail. And he has these nice gold shimmers on the accents of the purple cloak, which just really kind of accents it. And then I was kind of looking even closer. She's holding this little, it looks like a little drake or a baby dragon or something.
It's Pandora's box.
Ah, there you go. And it just, there's so much you can do with these. And that's what I was really impressed. I know Jeremy hasn't been doing it for terribly long, but they look great. And so obviously, Jeremy, you're doing the Neverborn. Eric, what's the army that you're going to stick with at this point, or?
I am looking at sticking more with the Arcanist than anything else. There are some of the Outcast models that I really love the sculpts of.
Yeah, I was interested in getting into those.
The hired swords, the Victoria crew.
Oh, those are cool.
I'm definitely checking them out. They look really, really cool to me.
Gotcha.
I think the Outcasts are pretty thematic in a lot of the things they do. So I'm going to check a few of them out. I actually ordered some of their stuff. I also really like the Neverborn just because of the whole Nightmares Made Flesh thing.
Imagine that. Eric liking Nightmares Made Flesh.
When Privateer Press came out with a Grimkin faction for Hordes, which are similar to, along the lines of the Neverborn, it's all Nightmares Made Flesh. I went nuts and just got as much of everything as I could. Unfortunately, I don't play War Machine, nor do I play Hordes, and I have played them plenty of times before, and I don't find the game as enjoyable as I would like to, because I do like the models and the model range. Even War Machine, giant steam robots and stuff. I love the models. But,
nothing wrong with that.
Right. But beyond just collecting the models to paint them to have models on a display case, I have no use for them. So I ended up selling them off at a swap meet, I believe. And the Neverborn remind me a lot of the Grimkin. Of course, the Neverborn actually came out long before the Grimkin, and I think some of them are actually cooler. So I'm going to try out a Neverborn crew, the Dreamer's crew, which is it's the Dreamer who I guess turns into somehow or another. I don't know how the mechanic works, but the Dreamer basically turns into this giant beast called Lord Chompy Bits.
He looks badass, and he has a little girl that actually kind of is his like avatar or summoner or something like that. I was
the Dreamer.
Yeah. So I was looking through the armies earlier this week after we played the game. Eric was like, "Hey, take a look at the army, see what you guys want to order. Let's get it started." And throughout the course of the week, I was looking and there's just so much to choose from. So I was having a hard time, but the one that really struck my eye was of the guild Sonya Crid. And she just has this I'm a huge comic book nerd. So she has this really comic booky look to her. She has this metal face, kind of like Doctor Doom. She has this badass, flame sword. She carries around this torch. Who knows why? But I started looking into the mechanic. No, the torch or the lamp.
Why would you not carry around a torch?
I guess, maybe to stave off the Neverborn or Juggalos, or I don't know.
I have one in my pants right now.
Oh, I'm not going to verify that, guys. But Sonya Crid, she's part of the.
Oh, they're doing it.
Oh my God. But she's part of the guild, but she's kind of she's a little bit of a renegade. And what I liked about her is they go after the Arcanists. So her tactics are kind of considered a little bit unorthodox and a bit extreme to most of the guild. Because her idea is let's kill the witches, and her entire group, it's the torch and the blade. So her crew is basically this group that she has emblazoned to her cause. No pun intended. But, basically they go after the Arcanists with just hellfire. I mean, they are just bent on their complete and total destruction. No judge, no jury, just she's the executioner. So, I thought she looked super cool. And then I started reading her mechanics, and there's a lot of cool area of effect attacks with her flame. And so that's what I ordered. So I look forward to playing her.
For those of you obviously not very big into, civil rights and all that.
No. And for those of you who don't know, in the Malifaux lore, the guild, the factions wise, the guild actually controls the soulstone trade from Malifaux, and they have basically become this kind of evil conglomerate corporation that are hell bent on oppression and horrific things and hating everybody, and they're horrible and they're god awful and they're disgusting and did I mention they're horrible? They're horrible, Joe.
Yes,
they're horrible.
I think the maple syrup trade out of Canada.
Right. And the Arcanists, who really should have like one of their crews being the Jimmy Hoffa crew, have, they're just these simple.
Now I'm going to see a Joe Pesci model.
Right.
Yeah, they're these simple, wonderful little magic users who just want to use their magic, and they think that soul stones, should be, more readily available, not controlled by the evil oppressive guild, and should be controlled by them instead. And they've unionized all the mining workers. So the guild owns the mines,
right?
But the Arcanists own the workers.
Well, and that's why I like Sonya, because the lore behind it says, like, hey, she started using this magic.
Oh, she's an oppressive bitch. That's cool.
Well, no, she started using this magic, right? And so she started to kind of understand the taste and the understanding of the draw of magic.
As an oppressive bitch.
An oppressive bitch that understands the enemy to the point where she uses their tactics and their powers.
Don't care. Gonna kill her.
It literally says that she.
Sure. Read your fake news.
Many members.
Make Malifaux great again.
Sonya has spent most of her professional life perfecting her own use of magic in order to fight the Arcanists and other illegal magic users, literally fighting with fire with fire.
Magic should be free for all people.
You know what? That's fake news.
You're just a magophobe.
Many members of the guild feel that she might be overstepping her boundaries, becoming more mage than guild. So it kind of speaks to like the rebellious aspect.
I would not be surprised if in 3rd edition she ends up becoming an Arcanist.
And that's cool because, I don't really care about her faction. I just liked her. I thought she was cool as fuck.
Well, it's interesting because in all the podcasts we've had discussing different things, this shows you kind of how thematic and good the setup for this backstory is to continue and evolve among these factions. Because here I am where I've only read, stuff from a little bit of stuff from the 2nd edition rulebook lore and some of the stuff from the website. And I've already got, a little bit of an understanding of different things, and we're just basically talking shit about each other's faction. I would talk shit about the Neverborn, but I like Nightmares Made Flesh, so I can't argue with Jeremy's choice there. And they're cool, and they hate humanity, and I hate humanity, and so we're good. I'm good with the Neverborn.
Eric is a misanthrope, in case you didn't know.
That's not a secret, nor do you need to whisper it. Most people gather that within about 5 minutes of meeting me, that I don't like people.
I knew it within like 5 seconds.
I'm still figuring it out.
Jeremy.
I'm a little slow.
Get with the fucking program.
Okay. That's it. Well, you're cute. We'll let you be slow.
Aww, I'm beaming again.
Look at him go.
Me.
But yeah, I mean, and I love these games that have that depth to them, that you can create a narrative, you can forge that whole idea, you can get behind a faction, and I can go, because the Outcast models, their sculpts are okay. Yeah. A lot of the models are cool. They're neat looking, but they don't speak to me.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Arcanists, they really do. I'm all about the magic users and stuff, which is, not the way I am in a lot of games, but in this I am, because I I really like Sandeep's crew just for the aesthetic. Because like you were talking about, like the Banasuva is like this almost Hindu looking god totem.
Yeah.
And
he looks badass. He's literally one of the coolest looking models I've ever seen.
And Sandeep has this cool action pose, and he looks like he's like a Sikh. Like he's ready to kick ass and throw fireballs.
Yeah.
And then, he's got Kudra, and I haven't primed or, done much with her model yet, but she's like a snake dancer, man. She's got 2 cobras. Those are her weapons. She's fighting with cobras as, snakes in her hands. And that stuff is really, really cool to me and really shows the characterful environment that Wyrd Games has created with Malifaux.
So if anyone doesn't know at home, that's basically the Malifaux equivalent of the crazy cat lady.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. No, I think there actually is. Because December, when she's one of the other Arcanist masters, she can actually have a Horcat Pride. So she's actually the crazy cat lady. She also uses the weird Blessed of December model, which is like this weird bugbear antlered beast with titties.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I like titties.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are furry titties.
Oh.
Yeah.
I still like furry titties.
Wow, Joe. Well, we learned
a lot about Joe today.
Yeah, apparently Joe likes chipmunks and furry titties.
I think the most horrific thing is how little I'm surprised.
But I mean, to that point, so when we first started playing, I was looking at Eric, of course, bought like 5-6 different, sets of crews, and they all looked cool. And I was like, okay, well, what really resonates with me? And I love Japanese culture, and especially medieval Japanese culture. And so I saw the 10 Thunders and Misaki's crew, and she has these like 3 ninjas that are kind of like the basically the scrubs.
What was it? The Torakagi?
Torakagi, yeah. And they all looked super cool. And then I started looking at the other guys, and she's got this fox with the 9 tails, which kind of remind me of like the video game Okami, with flame tails.
Dude, some of the backstory on that I was looking about Shang.
Shang like the shit.
Like she Misaki, when she was on Earth, like would see Shang in her dreams and everything. And then when she went through the breach to go to Malifaux, it manifested and appeared for her and was like, badass. Hello, I'm Shang. How you doing?
Now, I was reading some things, and this is all admittedly, I guess, 2nd edition, which I haven't played at all. But the 10 Thunders have like the infiltration ability or something where they can use models from just about anywhere. And is that something that's carrying into 3rd? Or I honestly don't know what I'm talking about right now.
That I don't know. And I don't know enough about how that works and what's carrying over. And because 3rd edition is in open beta status, some of that stuff I don't think they've hashed out and finalized exactly yet. Because I know that they are planning to and for anyone, I'll take a minute right now to let our listeners know that anyone who is planning on maybe enjoying our discussion on this and wanting to get into and checking out the game and 3rd edition, should you wish to play with the open beta rules, you can go to the Wyrd Games page, go to the Malifaux open beta. You can follow the links. You have to register on their forums. And then once you are on the forums, you can go to the sticky post that has the M3E open beta rules set. And they have been updating the files for all of the rules set. They released them Wednesday of last week. And I believe it was by Friday or Saturday, they had already done one update. And they're planning on doing another one, I believe, tomorrow.
And let me just say, for somebody that appreciates technology that works, because user interfaces that suck are the bane of my existence. Their website works. I mean, oh, it's a great website. It's very easy to navigate and to find what you need. And I mean, that's one of the big challenges for me getting into anything is if I want to find more, if the website sucks and they just didn't really think about how the user is going to really interact with it, it makes it harder to get into. But back to the 10 Thunders that I was talking about. The Masaki's crew, the one that the standout for me was the Ototo model. It's one of the most dynamic models I've ever seen because it's this samurai looking dude, but he's in this pose where he's slamming down his bow staff.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, that's not a bow staff. That's a club.
Oh, I'm sorry. His club with fire energy popping out of the base. And so what's holding up the model is the fire energy from the bottom of his club. And that's what's holding up the model. And then it kind of goes up into the stave into him. And he's in this jumping pose. It's fantastic. It looks amazing. Can't wait to see Eric paint these bastards.
I'm never going to, just to piss you off.
God damn it. Should have kept my mouth shut.
I know, right? No, I'll eventually get around to it. May take me a while because I am going to be doing a lot for the Hobby League. However, most of the Eldar I'm doing for that are like I've got over half of that first 500 points already painted, and we're a ways out from it. So I'm pretty good on that. That's why I started painting Banasuva the other night because I wanted to try. I actually painted him by doing zenithal shading with an airbrush and then spraying inks on him, and then started painting the lower levels of that, and that's kind of where I got is getting some of that those highlights and shading with the ink layer over top of it. To do that, which, I'll post pictures of him once he's done, but until then you ain't getting shit.
He's already looking really good. I mean, it's just the base colors and the shading, but it looks pretty sick.
But yeah, and I love just all the different crews and even the names of certain things like Lord Chompy Bits, even some of the names that they have made, of the crews, like, the different things that they call them and whatnot. And it is such a cool, characterful, world that it's real easy to get into the story. And, it's got me wanting to look up to see if anybody's written like novels set in the Malifaux universe or anything like that to see if there's more stuff I can find out about them.
The one army that didn't really hit me that when I was looking through them was the Resurrectionists. I for some reason, nothing about them really resonated with me.
I feel the same.
Well, it seems like they might be a kind of a tricky horde army.
Yeah.
Because they just keep bringing stuff up.
It's more zombies and the Resurrectionists were basically, from what I understand of the background lore, they were basically, magic users that figured out necromancy, and they, necromancy was pretty much outlawed from the get-go, and they started using it regardless. And they're kind of like this underground faction of necromancers that have been around for forever. And some of the models have drawn me to them a little bit because they are kind of horrific and very gore oriented, which is, some of that cool horror stuff that I like.
Yeah. Very Victorian Lovecraftian kind of stuff
in some ways, but they just don't quite do it for me because honestly, the Neverborn have more of the Cthulhu-esque mythos to them.
Yeah.
And look to them than the Resurrectionist. And I just can't get into them. And I don't know why or whatnot. I mean, maybe one point I will, but we'll that remains to be seen. But as of right now, I think the Arcanists are probably my favorite faction, and we'll see what ends up being my second. It's kind of a toss up between maybe Neverborn or Outcasts.
Yeah, I was just looking at the site as you were talking, and it reminded me of the Arcanist army that I was interested in, which was I keep calling them armies, but crew. Marcus's crew, the Claw and the Fang. So Marcus looks like this. If you're familiar with like Marvel comics, like Brother Voodoo, which is basically like a sorcerer kind of, almost like Rastafarian kind of look to him. And he summons these badass creatures from like a hellscape, like this cool looking, like, 3-headed saber-toothed tiger and this like evil, like spiky gorilla and this Hydra looking thing. I mean, just so cool. It's like they told the model designers, just go fucking nuts, have fun, make something that looks cool, and we'll design everything around it.
Well, the thing I love about it is that, and if you look at the models, like, let's take, for instance, like the Games Workshop models, very highly detailed, very cool models. If you look at, say, a Space Marine lieutenant or captain, you can look at that guy and go, he's shouting orders on a battlefield.
Right.
He's got cool little trinkets and doodads stuck to his armor.
Okay.
But you look at that model and you go, this is a beautiful model and it's highly detailed and it's well sculpted and it's well done. But I don't start telling a story with it.
Right.
The minute I see some of the Malifaux, like the masters, I'm like, look at this guy. Like, I can almost picture the house he lives in. I can picture, him being like, okay, cool, I'm going to do this. Or her being like,
I'm going to have a beer with this guy.
Yeah. Or her being like, oh, I'm pissed off. Or like, in the case of like McMorning, this crazy doctor that has like a head on a plate, if I'm remembering the model correctly, you look at that and you go, God, I would not want to meet that guy in a dark alley. Holy shit.
And to be fair, Jerry was talking about having a beer with a baby that's stapling the teddy bear to the floor.
I still think the most terrifying thing is the fact that baby has the same movement as any other normal model. And so the idea of this baby just hauling ass on all fours with like a knife in its teeth coming at you.
Oh, and it does. And it has right at me. And it was terrifying.
If it's not making you come to it.
Baby Cade Skitters.
Yes.
Everybody knows it.
It's fucked up, man.
Yeah, but and you see these models and you start wanting to tell a story of them. Mm-hmm. Like when I look at the model for Candy on the Neverborn, the little girl with the candy basket, I just picture like this little girl walking down like a dark alley, just kind of, humming along or singing a little tune to herself that sounds all happy and cheerful. And you look at her and you go, oh, little girl, can I help you? Are you lost? And then she looks at you and you realize, her eyes are all black and, her skin is like bluish pallid and
then she walks away with your head in her basket.
Yeah, obviously otherworldly. And then by that point, it's too late. You're dead. That to me shows the level of characterfulness and individuality that you can get with each of the models and the rules of the crews and everything like that.
Yeah, it's a crazy little crew too. That specific one. I mean, you've got baby Cade and you got the little girl, and then like three, fucked up looking like twisted ghosts, the poltergeist, and then Pandora looking all hot and just I'm just here to summon all this evil.
Oh, you thought you were coming to the goth night at a club? No, I'm Pandora, and here's evil. But well, moving on, I think we have definitely had a great discussion about Malifaux and hopefully generated some interest amongst our listeners to play it.
Buy it, paint it, play it.
Yep.
It actually is super fun to play.
And definitely the third edition, they put those rules in open beta before anything went to print, before they were done with anything, because they wanted to give the community the chance to create this game, to put the polishing and final touches on it. So if you are interested, go get those rules, play it, give them feedback on their forums and everything like that. It is important, and you finally have the chance to affect the rules and the way things work with your popular opinion. And how many other games or game systems have actually done that, to my knowledge? Tabletop miniature game wise, I mean, I've been in and out of the loop enough and, whatnot that I can't think of any. Now, there are plenty that have beta testers, but there are specific people on specific games in specific ways. And it's not just open to the general public to just go and download these documents and play this game, to give them feedback on what happened in your battles, what happened with your crew, what happened with this rule, what do you think about this rule? Like, one of the big changes from second edition to third edition is actually the way charging works. In second edition, each model had
a move and a charge distance.
And a charge move. Yeah. And this, you literally are just pushing your move, but you get to make a free melee attack. Whereas before, if you would generate AP. And so when you activate a model, everything would generate 2 AP or 3 AP depending, and blah, blah, blah. And you could do things to bonus and buff it up and whatnot to a certain maximum or whatever. You would basically be able to declare a charge. You'd move your charge distance in second edition, and then you'd have to pay another AP to actually attack somebody once you were in the engagement range.
Oh, that kind of sucks.
Whereas charge in this, you only get the normal movement of the model. You do have to push in one direction, so you can't like charge around a corner. But the thing is, with 2 actions per model, you can move around like a wall and then declare a charge. And if you get within your engagement range on that charge, you can then attack foe free. And prior, you could not do that. So it actually gives you a lot more tactical viability with doing your charges.
And to that point, one of the things that really kind of struck me as what lended credence to the power of like your lead in this game was that extra movement. Whereas each standard model gets 2 movements and your lead model gets 3. I mean, I know that may seem like a kind of a flippant and unnecessary thing, or maybe it's not as powerful as you think, but
Joe actually means actions, not move.
Yeah, actions. I'm sorry. But I mean, like I watched Eric use, his lead and I mean, she flew over this building, first of all, she had the flight ability and then like just dominated, in the midst of an existing kind of, melee. So I think that gave a lot more power to your main, lead crew leader,
It does. And, anytime you have mechanics like that, that's kind of how that works. But to wrap up the Malifaux discussion, since we keep getting right back onto it. Anyway, it is a great game. It is a fun game. Feel free to buy it. Check it out. Check out that rule set. It is awesome. I mean, I honestly think one of the coolest things ever is the fact that as we play and us coming in, we never played second edition. So we're learning this third edition rule set straight off from the bat with nothing else behind us to flavor our experience, so to speak. And we can actually affect how these rules are written with our feedback with what goes on in our games. And
that's awesome.
Yep. And so, as promised, we will move on to one of the games I played, which was Rebecca and I sat down and talked her into playing a game with me. And I think she just kind of was like, well, I'll play a game with you. And I was like, well, what do you want to play? And she said, well, let's check out Song of Ice and Fire.
An awesome game.
It is also an awesome game. It is a battle game based on the Game of Thrones. We've talked about it a few times on this podcast.
You might have heard of the show. It's on.
Yeah, a few people watch it.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And
it's up there with My Name is Earl.
Yeah. That was actually a cool show, by the way. But and we played, I played my Night's Watch and she played Lannisters. And in this game, I actually rolled good on my morale tests. So she had a lot harder time than Joe did when he played against me. Because I was able to just heal things right back up to, full ranks and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed playing the Night's Watch. For a newbie to the miniature gaming world, Andrea actually liked it when she was a newbie. But as a newbie who does not necessarily play miniature war games a whole lot, I think Rebecca was a little overwhelmed with a lot of the different rule synergies and what happened here and what happened there and how things kind of work. She started getting the hang of it by the end of it, and she did pretty good with it. And I think she did have some amount of fun with it. Not as much as she's had with like Kill Team, because, she asked for a second game of Kill Team. She did not ask for a second game of Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire, the miniature game. Trademark. And still that game, playing fantasy games as a fantasy war game, that is my go-to. Big sci-fi war game is 40K, and my favorite skirmish game right now is definitely becoming Malifaux from having played a lot of Kill Team and having Kill Team be kind of my favorite, I'm now going more for, well, if I'm going to sit down with a buddy and we're going to play a quick little game or a quick-ish little game, as I get to learn the rules, it gets faster. I really want to play more Malifaux, to be honest with you. So with all that being said, that game that her and I played, it's hilarious, and it was a lot of fun using I taught her how to use the political board with Cersei Lannister and
she played the Lannisters.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And while you were Joe was up using the little girl's room.
Yes, I was.
But I actually rolled good on all my panic tests.
Nice.
Against the Lannisters. So Rebecca had a hell of a time because I was just healing everything back up.
Yeah, because the Lannisters, I mean, that's their strength, is influence with the panic tests. I mean, that, like, especially with Cersei, I mean, that's your power.
Well, that, and I mean, like, their standard foot soldiers force panic tests and things like that. So
I'm guessing you were playing your
Night's Watch.
Yeah. That's Eric. Eric has a complete hard on for the Night's Watch, by the way.
I have loved the Night's Watch not only since beginning to watch the show, but also since reading all the novels.
Oh, they're fucking badasses.
Yeah. I love the Night's Watch.
Side note, I love the fact that the wildlings are now the Night's Watch. So
yeah,
for all intents and purposes.
I mean, kind of. Speaking of which, that's a really good segue, since we like saying segue lots on the show. Segue.
I'm not going to do it.
Do it.
No.
Jeremy, your thoughts?
I have no thoughts.
Do it or you're fired.
Jeremy, your thoughts?
Do it or you're fired.
Jeremy, your thoughts?
You want to get fired?
I have a quota.
Because that's how you get fired.
Is that how you get fired?
Yeah,
that's how you get fired.
Segue.
This is how we get orcs, okay? Jeremy, your thoughts?
Anyway, what I was saying is this coming out soon, or maybe they've just recently released. I'm not sure exact on the release date specifically, but I know that I was told by the end of this month, the Free Folk are coming out.
Oh, no.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
For a whopping, I think it's like $85 or $90, whatever it is, retail. You get a full army in a box.
With the giants?
With a giant, at least one.
Tormund Giantsbane?
I don't know if he's in the main box or not.
Gotta have Tormund. Or Mance Raider. One of the two.
I haven't seen what's in there, but I'm pretty sure Tormund or Mance will be in there. Because you will need the political stuff and all that. Having talked with one of the guys up at Gigabytes, he actually had the Free Folk army and was previewing it or whatever and playing it. And I was talking to him about how they work, and they are a horde army. In other words, like the more bunch of just your main infantry cheap unit, they're cheap as crap too. You just surround the hell out of the other guy's stuff, and you start getting bonus. Like he's basically like if you engage on the front, and then you have another unit of your basic foot soldiers, the wildlings or whatever, engage from the side flank and all that. You start getting bonuses the more units you have engaged on flanks and rears and front.
That's awesome.
As much as you can get in there, you want to get them in there. And just dogpile the shit out of them. And it just starts giving you massive bonuses. And then there's the other build, which is less horde, more giants. Oh. And the giants are supposed to be stupid nasty, which I'd imagine they are because, I mean, they're fucking huge.
They're freaking awesome. Badass.
And they are cool looking models too. So I'll be interested because I'll probably end up having to get that because you know what? I kind of really just have a weird idea of doing like this massive Spear Wives army. Because spear wives.
Yeah. That's badass.
Like, I seriously would give Rebecca a spear and just be like, carry this around so I can tell people you're my spear wife. Because I just think that's a cool name. Who's that, spear wife?
Yeah.
She won't have a name anymore. She'll just be spear wife.
That's just my spear wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't look at her funny. She'll stab you with a spear.
Yeah. She can do it from 10 feet. It's all awesome. Man, trust me, the dishes are done and the house is clean. You do
not want to spear ex-wife.
No.
Oh, God. It's like the worst.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
We saw what happened with Jon Snow just pissed off a standard wildling with him.
I do want to spear my ex-wife. Is that the same thing?
I also want to spear my ex-wife. I'd like to get in on that.
I mean, I'm not stopping you.
No, just the law.
I mean, law, schma, whatever.
The Iron Law.
But yeah, that'll be a cool faction. And then, of course, I cannot wait to see, all the other stuff they put out, aside from the Free Folk and the Night's Watch. And, eventually they're going to have to put out the Theon Greyjoy's people.
The Ironborn.
The Ironborn, yeah. They're going to have to do some Ironborn. That's probably going to be a pretty cool army too.
It could be. Depends on which way they go. I mean, if they go with Euron, for those of you out there that are Game of Thrones fans, I despise Euron. I think he's a cock and balls. I think he's like one of the worst parts about the show and the books. So I love the Ironborn.
Yeah, he's a giant prick.
Yeah, he's a total fucking douchebag. So. But that being said, I mean, even though
Theon's sister's awesome though.
Oh yeah. Yara is a fucking badass. But Theon, I mean, Theon's a bit of a prick in the beginning, but he gets redeemed.
Yeah, I mean, getting your dick cut off will do that to you.
I mean,
I think he's definitely change you after a certain point in the minute.
I mean, he was a prick before that. He was a total douchebag before that. But I mean, he's come around. I mean, he saved Sansa. But yeah, an Ironborn army would be super cool. Are they thinking about, or have you heard anything about like maybe actually having like ships involved in that?
No, I don't think they're planning on doing anything like that as far as I know.
Yeah, I think the only thing they could maybe do is imply the ships with some kind of interesting deployment rules.
Yeah, with that or like maybe a terrain piece or something as a like beached ship or something. It'll be that. It'll be cool to see the armies of Dorne.
Oh, hell yeah.
Those would be cool.
The Sand Snakes, yeah.
Yeah, and what they may do with like, if they do anything with the oh man, it's like I haven't watched that show in like a year and a half or 2 years.
I've watched the whole thing through 6 times and individual episodes way too many times.
Yeah, I've watched it a few times, but what they do with like the Targaryens.
Oh god.
I'm imagining like probably they'll just include some of the Targaryen stuff with the Dothraki whenever they do them.
Yeah, they'd almost have to, unless they started going like kind of retro a little bit and start going to old Targaryen armies.
So they haven't released any kind of Dothraki army yet? Or
not yet.
That would have to be like very mobile.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you did Daenerys with like, a couple of her baby dragons when it was a little bit earlier in the show with the Dothraki, that would be actually a super cool army.
Yeah. Or if you just did they'd probably just have to do like armies of Essos or something like that, because you'd have, kind of the Dothraki, the what's the slave guys that are trained to fight? The name of them again? I wouldn't know.
Grey Worms people.
Grey Worms people. You'd have to like the Dothraki mixed units of like Dothraki, Grey Worms people, and like the what is it, the Thousand Sons or whatever, the mercenary company.
Yeah, exactly.
It was interesting what you were hitting on. It'd be interesting to see if they were going to do the dragons at the different stages where you've got, her with the baby dragons, and then,
if you brought her
dragons, and then when they got big,
if you put her with just Drogon, Viserion, and Rhaegon, I mean, there's your army.
How
right
cool
there.
a model that would be with her standing there with the 3 baby dragons on her.
Well, that would be sick.
And they might do her with the 3 baby dragons. I don't know if they would actually put a full-size dragon in there, because
that's your list.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, if you have something like that, it would be so hard to balance that game mechanic wise, and you'd pretty much have to make it overpowered if you're basing it kind of true to the novels. However, to make it as a balanced game mechanic, you would take the fun out of actually playing this dragon miniature. And so I personally would not actually do the adult dragons. I would maybe just have her sculpted with those 3 dragons and have a really cool ability on her card that she can do with them, as a unit attachment or whatever, however it works. Or if she's political, have a cool thing that she can do with like the dragons, like
intimidation maybe.
Yeah, something cool like, okay, well, if you use your non-combat unit second, then the dragons can, torch the enemy's non-combat unit and then they can't use it next turn or something, something along those lines, like to show how she would, kill people with the baby dragons that got in her way, prior to them growing up, basically, and how several times people tried to take them from her and they met horrible fates because she slaughtered them with those baby dragons.
I would love to see a Tarly army where they get burnt up to a crisp automatically.
Or it could almost be when they're babies, like you were saying. It lends to her political status,
right?
And they are individual tokens or units that she has to defend. And if for everyone she loses some political power.
Yeah, well, the game wouldn't work that way.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to actually play it one day with me, because basically you have your army set up and it's all rank and file. So you have movement trays that all your dudes fit into. And then you have an actual little board that's your, political board. Mm-hmm. And your army list consists of an actual battlefield commander and then the units and unit attachments that commander commands. And then a lot of the commanders some of them can be political units or commanders. Some of them can be unit attachments or commanders. And then you have actual political units. Like the Lannisters have Cersei, they have Tywin, they have Tyrion.
Yeah.
And then you actually, I believe, Jaime Lannister, the maimed Jaime Lannister, the one-handed, he's actually a political unit.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I can't remember for sure, so don't quote me on that, but I think he is. And what you do is the political board has, I believe, 6 zones on it. And one zone affects morale and panic tests for the enemy army. What it does is you can pick a unit, you can force it to take a panic test right then and there at -1 to its morale. And if you put Cersei on that, Cersei's card attaches to an enemy unit and gives them a -2. So you can basically drop that on a board, hand it to them, and go, that guy's got to take a panic test. They're at -3. So if your panic number is a 6+, you have to roll 2d6 and you have to get above a 6 to pass the panic test. So if you do that, you get a -3 to that roll. So you basically have to get a 9+ to still pass that panic test.
And on my first try with the Lannisters, with that mentality, having watched as much Game of Thrones as I have, I won with the Lannisters, barely knowing much about the game mechanics, just knowing more about the characters, which is
it's a testament to how good they've done with matching it up with the book and the lore.
And that's what really amazed me about it, because oftentimes when you see these, kind of conversions from like a TV show or a movie or any kind of existing property into a game, I mean, they don't really handle those centrifugal elements about the characters,
Right.
And they nailed it. I mean, each character plays the way they would in the show or the game or the books. So.
So you have that. So you can basically, and the way that panic test works is worst case scenario. I roll my 2d6. If I get snake eyes, I've rolled a 2. If I needed to get a 9 to pass the panic test, the difference between the 2 that I rolled and the 9 that I needed is 7. I lose 7 wounds out of that unit. And on a rank and file infantry unit of 12 dudes, that's 7 guys.
That's huge.
And it can be. Normally, you're only losing by 2 or 3 as on average. So you may not be losing a full rank of dudes. But it can definitely ruin your day, especially if you're rolling low and
going against Cersei.
Yeah, and you've already taken some wounds to the unit. It can whittle you down real fast. There's another one, which this is my favorite for the Night's Watch. There's one of the political zones that lets you heal. It gives you a +1 wound to the unit. It says, restore that unit by 1 wound. Well, if you put Aemon on that, Maester Aemon from the Night's Watch, he gives you an extra wound healed and then 1 extra wound per rank that unit is down. So most units have 3 ranks of 4 dudes. So if you're down 2 ranks, you put him on there, you've automatically healed almost another entire rank. And if it's Jon Snow's unit, you get to, anytime they heal, if I remember correctly, it's like if they heal or whatever, if it happens to be Jon Snow's unit you do, I believe you get another D3. Oh, no, it's if you pass a panic test. You get another D3 wounds whenever you pass that panic test back.
Very resilient.
They just keep coming back.
And the Night's Watch, I mean, that's literally how Eric was dominating when I was playing against him, because it seems like I would wipe out half his unit. And I was like, oh, yeah, I got this. And he's like, oh, no. I'm playing Night's Watch. We're coming back from the dead, baby.
Well, and the other cool thing about the Night's Watch is you have a tactics hand in the game. And the tactics hand lets you do certain specific things based on who your command. You basically have a generic tactics deck for the faction. Like Lannister has so many cards or whatever that are just Lannister. Then if you put Jaime as your commander, there are tactics cards that are Jaime Lannister. And you put those in there because that's your commander, and you shuffle them all together, and you draw 3 at the beginning of each turn, or up to 3 at the beginning of each turn. And then you can use them to do things like, when you roll attack dice, here's a tactics card that gives me a +1 to my defense that I can play whenever you roll your attack dice. It has a condition that is during the gameplay that that has to be, during this condition, you can do this and it does this effect.
Which is also relevant to Jaime Lannister because people know him as the Kingslayer, so he inspires his army.
I don't know if that's actually an effect or not. I'm just making it up off the top of my head.
But I mean, having played the Lannisters though, a lot of his effects were inspiration to his, his army. So
now in the Night's Watch, your faction cards actually have the lines from the oath that they take to join the Night's Watch.
Talking about that. That's just pretty cool.
And then you can play it as a tactics card, or you can actually attach those to your units as vows. And then when you attach them as vows, they have in-game effects that are different from what they are played with as a tactics card as a vow. And it starts making them, when you actually start using the vow system properly, it starts making the Night's Watch just like a force to be reckoned with, especially because your regular infantry are all using greatswords. So you get sundering and critical hit. So when you roll 6s to hit, they count as 2 hits, and your defender is at -1 defense because of the sundering power of the greatsword. So you're packing a wallop just with your regular dudes.
And one of the aspects of the armies that I liked, I played the Starks at one point, and you've got Great John Umber and his crew,
the Umber Berserkers.
Yeah. So the Berserkers, uniquely to them, as they dwindle in numbers, they get more powerful. So as your enemy defeats you and takes out, ranks of your army, they get their bonus. They get bonus damage as a result.
Well, yeah, they get how it normally works is instead of like you have a unit of 12 dudes, instead of rolling 12 attack dice for each dude, you actually have how many attacks you gain based on how many ranks. So they have, you have 3 ranks of 4 guys. So on your unit card, you'll have like under, whatever melee attack they have, great sword, short sword, whatever. It'll say, 3+. That's what you hit on. And then it'll have a green box that has like an 8 in it. That's how many dice you roll when you are at full ranks. They have a yellow, which is when you lose a rank, you are rolling that. And usually it's like 8, there'll be 5. And then when you're down to 1 rank, it's a red box. It'll be like 3. So, it's not necessarily always that progression, but it gives you an idea of what it is. So Great John Umber's Berserkers start off with like 4 attacks on full ranks.
Yeah, I think there's 4, 6, and 8.
Yeah, when they lose a rank, they go up to like 6 or 7, and then when they are down to 1 rank left, they're like 8 or 9 or something ridiculous like that. Like, it's stupid.
Yeah, they go in this berserker rage. Like, there's only 4 of us left. Fuck it, we're just gonna kill them all.
And there are the each unit card, like depending on the unit, has orders. You don't have to use the orders when you attack, but if you do, it'll give you a bonus. And Great John Umber's is you get this bonus to just knock the wallop the hell out of the opponent, but you take D3 wounds when you're done with it.
So yeah, they're just
they're just
blitzkrieging.
Yeah, absolute kamikaze. They're like, I'm gonna take you down, take myself down with you.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that's definitely a cool rundown on the Song of Ice and Fire, and Jeremy will have to play that and have some fun with it at some point.
Heck yeah!
So you can check it out.
And the models on that game are also superb, by the way. From Cool Mini or not. I mean, I was also, I'm a visual guy, so cool models are definitely an intriguing part of the whole, miniature wargaming hobby for me, and those really super impressed me. Not quite as much as Malifaux, but definitely nearby.
One of the coolest things I like about the Song of Ice and Fire models is that they are all one piece.
Yes,
they are all colored plastic based on their faction.
Yep.
So you don't have to paint them.
Yes, you do.
I mean, you do, but you don't.
Yes, you do.
And the way they've done them is that it's more. Those models are more about the ease of use and ease of play.
Yeah.
And every box of unit, any unit box, any army box that you buy, it actually has a clear plastic holders in it. So you can actually use that box as your carrying case.
Nice.
So you don't have to buy anything crazy if you don't want to. You don't need foam trays or any of that stuff. You can just use that.
Which you shouldn't do. You should just definitely get a foam tray because they're a pain in the ass to put in there.
Or do what I do and make your own foam trays.
Yeah.
Yes.
Several couches have died for transport of Jeremy's armies.
But for single model units like that there's no actual like assembly required. They're pretty fantastic.
Yeah. For one piece models, they are very, very well detailed.
So now that you just mentioned that about couches, I bet I could go down to Potter's house and buy a $20 couch and get more foam than I could over at Hobby Lobby. And just have to deal with grandma smell.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Then all your models will smell like grandma, and I will make fun of you relentlessly.
Febreze works for me.
But anyway, we're reaching pretty much about our time length on this, and so we'll probably say good show. Hope it was a good show. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me, sir. I had a good time.
No problem, sir. We may have you back one day.
Maybe.
You only farted like 3 times.
Is that it?
One was pretty bad rip, though.
Yeah, that I know of anyway. But needless to say, for those of you out there in the listening world, feel free to join our Facebook group, the Beer Hammer Associates. Also, it is imperative that you guys go on iTunes and give us your review. Review us, give us our stars, tell us what you think. I want you to be honest. If we sucked, say so, because otherwise the show ain't going to change. Give me your feedback on what you think. Our format's very free-flowing and very much more a roundtable discussion about whatever. And I want to hear what you guys have to say, what you want to hear more of, what you want to hear less of, how it all works.
And share it with your friends, man. I mean, this, put this out there. Let people know that this is a thing that exists and people should listen to it.
Share those links. I mean, I've been able to do some promotion here and there, but I am working all the time, and promoting a podcast like this on social media is almost a full-time job, and I could use all the help I can get. So definitely promote it around, let everybody know about it, and I'd love to hear the feedback. Join the Beer Hammer Associates Facebook group, post the models that you're painting, talk about the games, ask rules questions. That's what we're there for. If you happen to be in the North Georgia area, feel free to join us at Vendetta Games for our hobby league. It's a lot of fun. It's something I'm going to do probably every year, as far as I know. This year is going to be great because we're going to have a lot of narrative stuff with it and things like that. And I'm going to go into more detail on that, probably the next show that Paul's able to make it to, since he is the proprietor or one of the proprietors of Vendetta Games. And I work with him very closely on a lot of things.
Paul. Paul's super cool, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
I've only met him twice, but he's a very, very accommodating, super nice guy.
Yep, he is. And currently he has been getting bitch slapped left and right by the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And my thoughts and prayers go out to him that hopefully the rest of this year gets better for him, because he has not been having fun.
Oh yeah.
So
Get your hands up and your head down, brother.
yeah, and he is a great dude. And if you go to his store, honestly, he is probably one of the friendliest, happy to talk to you and see what you're into. And he will talk your head off about whatever game you want to know. And he is very knowledgeable and very great with what he knows. But yeah, also review us. Tell us what you think. I'd love to hear it. Keep on listening. And I guess that'll be it. Keep rolling dice, keep listening, keep flipping fake cards, whatever it is you want to do. And above all, fuck juggalos.